We are starting this year with something really special, a newly published deck from 2025 that opens my tarot deck reviews for this year. And it's a modern take on traditional tarot by a very talented comic book artist, J.C. Lonergan. And this deck not only pays tribute to the classic Rider-Waite imagery, but also introduces two new archetypal cards, which I think complement the traditional deck in a very thoughtful way. And it's deck that is called the Unveiled Tarot. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jay, and this is Lunaco Tarot, where I do weekly reviews of tarot and oracle decks. And today's deck, the Unveiled Tarot, was published by Sterling Ethis, a relatively new publisher based in New York. And this deck also received an introduction by no one other than Mike Mignola. And if you don't know who Mike Mignola is, he's the author of one of the most recognizable comic book characters, Hellboy, which has a couple of Hollywood movies and massive fan base to its name. And this deck is very refreshing addition to the tarot world, both for its artwork and thoughtful execution. And in this video, we open up the deck and look at the packaging, look at the upgraded guidebook, which I think is much better than you would normally see with little white books. And we'll go through the cards, look at the design and quality, and do intuitive reading to show you how the deck works. But also, I will give you a sneak peek of my next video, which I think will be very exciting. Let's begin. As I mentioned, the Unveiled Tarot is 80 card deck, and because of the addition of two new archetypal cards. Now look at the packaging. I thought it was very thoughtful the way it was packed. So you've got an internal sleeve in here, right? And by the way, this got a little magnet here, so when it closes, you just get this awesome feeling of, this cover sitting where it's supposed to be sitting. Also, we're greeted with one of the characters here. You'll see them. It's quite a unique take on the Fool. And the deck itself, it pays tribute to the traditional tarot decks in a really nice way, like one you see here. So you can see there's a imagery of the traditional, the Queen of Swords, with the new deck imagery showing the veil, right? And that's the unveiled part of it, right? Looking at the deck. So it sits in this really nice package sleeve, and just like a foreshadowing the introduction of another card. And if you haven't figured out, this is gonna be the Wheel of Fortune, and a few other ones as well, like this one here. I think it's really nicely done. And box is really sturdy, by the way. It's quite thick cardboard. It doesn't feel flimsy or anything like that. Looking at the deck, we'll just have a look at it in a second. Oh yeah, and this was sitting there as well to stop the deck from rattling, which I think was quite a nice touch. Not sacrificing the size of the box, but still keeping it all safe before it arrives in your hands. So this is the guidebook, right? And I would want to call it book. It's such a better take on little white books because it's quite thick. So it's like a hardcover guidebook. And this is so the deck says it was designed in 2024, but it was literally released like 2 weeks ago, I think. This is a foreword with very kind words from Mike Mignola here. It's just quite interesting. He talks about his take on what he envisioned the tarot reader looks like, and then going through a bit of a introduction of different characters there. And intro from Mike as well. So it's interesting. He talks about how he drew the death card first, and then looking at different ways of, taking a step back on life and realizing that in 100 years' time, neither us or people we know will be around, and all the things that we worry about today seem somewhat minor comparing to, the bigger picture. And he talks about how amazing that is, that the decks have been around for, you know, hundreds of years, been looked at people who are looking at the same imagery that you see in a Rider-Waite deck, for instance. And it's just such a unique way to transfer knowledge from generation to generation. And I think it's also feel, I guess, being part of something really big too, by redesigning it and adding modern take on the cards. Now, I'm not going to go to the look at the deck here because I don't want to spoil it for you. We're going to go through each card individually, but this is the book. So I think it's quite nice. And going through the deck, and you're going to see a lot of surprises here, by the way. It's a really fresh design, but still it doesn't depart far. There are some changes that I've noticed with the deck, but it's still quite on par with traditional decks. And speaking of cards quality, let's just have a quick look. So these cards are quite thick. I know there was some conversation on the internet that the cards are a bit thin, and I didn't find it to be the case. So looking at this now, yeah, so we're talking about like on 360 thickness, which I think is quite nice. I think anything around 350 is going to make it a tiny bit difficult to shuffle the deck and break the deck. Yeah, so this is, I think, is okay, just like borderline, but they still feel quite nice in your hands. It's like, I wouldn't say it's matte, it's just a normal print. All right, let's go through the deck and I'll point out some differences. So the Fool, of course, is a politician, right? And it's quite interesting because I think in the artist's words that politician can take any different direction with decisions they make, right? And it's really something, the journey they go on, and quite interesting take on that. The Magician can make anything happen, including going to space. You can see there, it's a bit of a magician who's probably more of a trickster in this deck, but nevertheless, landing on the moon is not a small feat, right? The High Priestess, you know, have a tribute to the old character through his as a band singer, and that's where you see the take on traditional deck. The Empress, I think this is a good take on Empress card for me. You know, the Mother Earth nourishing, and the still imagery of the Empress there, and the Emperor, of course, the solid foundation and concrete, something you can rely on, but quite often rigid. Hierophant. This is an interesting take as well. I think this is, maybe you can say this is like a spiritual movement leader, because Hierophant character pretty much kind of disappeared, like, you know, comparing to what it used to be in the time when some of his decks were built. Hierophant, so Pope, played much bigger role in the society comparing to today. So Lovers, another beautiful design card. The Chariot. Yeah, you can see it's a racetrack here, a very different take. The Strength, I think it's a beautiful card. A nurse saving someone, and this is, you know, how love can be a similar force than a brute strength. Slightly different take on the Strength card from Rider-Waite. The Hermit, I think this is a beautiful card. I think this perfectly reflects how we can get lost in a city busy of people, and sometimes we really need that. Or sometimes it happens even you're surrounded by a lot of people, you feel invisible almost, right? Now the Wheel of Fortune really takes the roulette wheel shape here, and you can see the characters from the symbols from the traditional deck over here, you know, with the Sphinx and the bull and an eagle and a lion. Justice, I think, was a pretty cool card. The Hangman, another interesting take. I quite don't get the rocks here, and you'll see in one of the minor arcana cards, but I think the symbolism here is similar to this, right? To get an understanding of the life above the surface, you really need to break away from chains that holding you up, right? So this is sort of not the moment where you acquire a new meaning, but more of a moment where you need to break away to acquire a new meaning. So maybe a few minutes before the the hangman card in traditional sense. The death, no different. I like the little crown on deck on above skeleton's head. You'll see it in a few cards, and it signifies, I think, it's a big card, big meaningful card. Temperance. Interesting take here as well. Similar with the traditional card, this is, there's a liquid present there with 2 cups, but the meaning here is that for a drink to be perfect, you need to maintain the balance between different liquids. Interesting take on as well. Notice the halo above the head. The devil, that's a completely different take. So from a book, it basically talks about how behind every happy family union there is, devils, like irritation and frustrations in daily lives, and that has to be managed. It cannot be ignored, and without this, you don't really have a picture of a family. Interesting take. I would say it's a departure from traditional meaning. The Tower, I think also a modern take on it. Global financial crisis, good example, and you can see people wearing business attire, running away. Yeah, I think it's a really well done job here. This one, the hope of finding new civilization. The star card with a telescope. And if you know where this is from, because I was looking at it, it's definitely not from Rider-Waite, right? You don't have that imagery there, but I'm wondering where this came from. The moon, a take on traditional deck here as well, though from a description, talks about the moon having different emotions and confusing, and I think I probably won't agree with the angry dog on the right side, but it represents, I guess, both sides. Happy dog, if I can call it that, and maybe the angry one too. The sound, a happy child running a roller coaster, or on a roller coaster I should say. Quite a good take on this. I think it reflects quite well the modern take on it. The Judgment, same idea, just a different from Archangel Gabriel. I think that's who's playing the trumpet in the traditional card, and of course the World, holding 2 magic wands in her hand, and of course it's pays tribute to a traditional deck where there's no, it's sort of both gendered, represented by the World card, over encompassing symbolism. And now we go into, remember I mentioned 2 new archetypal images, the mob, and it represents someone finding himself in a mob of angry people demanding something and not necessarily understanding how they got into it in the first place, and finding themselves in that moment of awakening in consciousness, realizing that they're somewhere that they haven't planned to be, which I think is quite interesting. And while I appreciate the imagery, I think you can probably say that traditional tarot deck did also cover some of these through, maybe the Wands card with a lot of fighting, and you can actually see the imagery of burning torches here too, right? Which sort of signifies the potentially the 5 of Wands as well, with a similar meaning. And of course the Puppeteer, right? And I thought about it as well. A beautiful card showing a politician or someone is manipulating people through hidden strings, hidden agendas, where again you can argue that traditional deck did have representation of that, maybe through the Devil card, more or less, and then perhaps some of the sword cards representing the shallow victory or the defeat. The ace of, so all the aces pay tribute to the traditional Rider-Waite deck, and there's no surprises there. It's quite nice, I think. So ace of wand, the fiery suit, the 2 of wands, the making a decision. I think this is actually where this deck shines quite a bit. It gives you more of a clearer imagery, right? And you can relate to, like here as well, it's very common from the movies or TV shows, scene where you have to choose a door and may have a prize behind, or you have to choose your own adventure. And I think this is a good take, like a clearer take on this, right? And here the decision is made, and now it's time to plan. and where you're going to go. And you can see traditional imagery here. It's beautifully done. Four of Wands, building a foundational relationship, and it's definitely more foundation of a family, because you see a wedding cake here. The Five of Wands, of course, the defending your position in a fight. That's a card I was thinking maybe related more to mob. As you can see, there's a lot of angry people there arguing for their passionate ideas and trying to win this one. The Six of Wands, another traditional take, the winner. Now it's just, I think it's a beauty pageant character here. So that's where you can see the traditional imagery blending in, and the square in the middle is not always the traditional meaning. It could be the other way around, right? Like here you can see the horse from a card, but then the character is a bit more modern. The Seven of Wands, it's another card defending your position, but you see it's a quarterback. I'm not familiar with the American football, but to me it looks like maybe that, or maybe a hockey player. Actually, looking at the mask, tell me if you know better about this. The Eight of Wands, everything is in the air. Different take on this. I think for me, multiple wands in the air probably represented it a little bit better. Nine of Wands, worn out warrior. So I think here it's less looking tired, probably. I quite like this take. The Ten of Wands, working hard. The ants carrying the heaven, the world on their shoulders. The Page of Wands. Pages mean exactly the same thing here. So there's no differences in terms of the suits or court cards. They all have the same meaning and the same structure, right? So still wands and pentacles and swords, same. This is Evil Knievel in my view. Daredevil. The Queen of Wands. It's quite cool. This is, I think, take on Hollywood movies. Being a director, of your passion. This makes sense. And of course, the King of Wands, someone commanding the crowd. There's a lot of people there. I quite like that imagery of the passion here. Is always have this like a red and fiery color. We're going to Cups now, relationships and emotions. Another take. Quite like this one actually, with water and the sea of emotions. Two of Cups. The Three of Cups, celebration. It's an interesting take as well. Like I guess could be a reverse meaning of this as well. Acting as if the life is something to celebrate, where not everything may be in order at the person's house, and just showing it there that way, or the cleanup that needs to be done after the big party. The Four of Cups, of course, trying to find a breath of air. And if you remember in Rider-Waite, this is a person sitting looking at the cups, not seeing opportunities. It's maybe not having so much happening and being consumed by something in front of it. You have no time to look for other opportunities or even take some fresh air. The Five of Cups, it's a remorse and regret. The Six of Cups, a nostalgia, and I think this is a really good take on it, right? This is a grown-up man riding a toucan, a bird toy thing. I'm not sure what you actually call them, but yeah, and seemingly excited and happy, remembering the childhood memories. Seven of Cups, of course, and look at this really cool play with traditional imagery of Seven of Cups. If you recognize, these are the characters, the images on those cups you need to choose from, right? And this is also, I guess it could be a poison apple. Like, you have to choose carefully what you pick from those Seven Cups. A beautiful take, I think. I think it's kind of revealing more of the meaning behind the cards using this take. Eight of Cups. Not sure if I take it in the same way, like the meaning, but yeah, I can definitely see the connection between the traditional one. The Nine of Cups. The wish card, and I think this is one of the celebration achievement. I think this is a slight departure from a traditional deck, because it doesn't have that the cups and something hidden behind, and I think it's slightly different take on it. But when we do intuitive reading, maybe this will show up and we can play with it. And Ten of Cups. So here specifically to the family, right? Where I think for me, Ten of Cups is more happiness. It could be family, but the rainbow situation there. Yeah, so this is more probably geared towards the family. Now we go into Page of Cups, quite interesting, swimming in the sea of emotions and observing them, quite a good take. The Knight of Cups, managing to ride a bicycle without spilling the water of emotions. The Queen of Cups, sitting comfortably there. There's again the little crown symbol in a pool of emotions, and a Knight of Cups, King of Cups, being able to steer the boat in the middle of the emotional turmoil. I think it's a really cool take on this. Ace of Swords, all right. So again, swords are beautifully represented here, choosing between emotion and logic, using chess. The Three of Swords, similar one. I quite like it. It's like in the cocktail glass here, right? And someone whose relationship didn't work out, a bitter disappointment. The Four of Swords, I quite like this one. I think it definitely reflects more on a modern take of this one here. Five of Swords, achieving the victory, but maybe a shallow victory. Maybe it's a tribute to a famous Tour de France winner who, used some unfair advantages over others and representing a deceiving shallow victory, maybe. Six of Swords and Seven of Swords, interestingly enough. Deceit card, if you remember. So taking a pledge while keeping your fingers crossed, right? A really cool take on this. If you remember the Eight of Swords card, this has been trapped, surrounded by swords and feeling exposed, not knowing what's happening. This one here, Nine of Swords, waking up from nightmare. I think it's pretty on par on the Rider-Waite deck. And the Ten of Swords. This is quite an interesting one. I think this is where probably someone who not particularly a big fan of swords suit may find this card slightly, I guess, rewarding and just sort of taking it away from, a murder scene pictured on Rider-Waite deck, but something a bit more trivial, like, someone been backstabbed at the party, they're talking behind someone's back and maybe calling them names or discussing them, but without say it to their face, and you can see the person there, and the couple sharing rumor about someone. So much more practical situation. I think it happened to a lot of us. Page of Swords, no surprises there. The Knight of Swords taking charge is a modern take on a soldier wearing a gas mask there. Of course, Queen of Swords, cutting for the whale, and you're already familiar with this character from the box. The King of Swords, beautifully done card. I'm still yet to contemplate the meaning of it, but represents a general who went through. I'm not quite sure the meaning of a heart. If you get the deck, please let me know how you interpret it. Now, this is where I was mentioning to you in the beginning, the Hanged Man. These weirdly shaped rocks, and I think it's probably something from the US. I guess maybe Grand Canyon or some of those figures. I'm not quite sure what the symbolism of these are, but I guess it's related to the material world, the pentacles and stuff. Two of Pentacles, balancing act. Now this is a different take on it, right? So balancing act in the traditional card, I didn't actually link it to the grenade, and this is this thing where if you drop a grenade by accident, then the big boom will happen, right? I guess a slightly different take on it. I never interpret card this way, but it's quite interesting. Three of Pentacles, working hard to build something. So the Four of Pentacles, of course, hold on to your wealth or material possessions so hard that you almost have you clenched your muscles to a point you cannot move. It's paralyzing, if you remember that card. I think it's a really good take on it. Probably expanding on the meaning or just make it a bit more visible. The Five of Pentacles, slightly different take. If you remember the couple outside of a church, and this was more like a soldiers on a parade walking, brave and everything, but this is a soldier coming back, maybe worn out. Six of Pentacles, planting, tossing coins between two hands and planting a coin, if you remember that card, waiting for a harvest after you put some hard work in, the thinking, and then waiting for the fruit of your labor to rise from the ground. Eight of Pentacles. How interesting is this? If you remember, this is a card of mastership with a apprentice or maybe a master hammering away. And I think this is probably tribute to another famous car manufacturer who is known for working long hours, mastering the craft of making the automobiles. And I think this is probably it, looking at the robots replacing that, and the skillful thought going from this to here. Nine of Pentacles, an interesting one. This is the abundance card, right? And yeah, you can see it here. This lady definitely made it, and sits in a beautiful garden surrounded by wealth. Ten of Pentacles, of course, the stability, right? And this is, I think, card that you can walk through the cold city with a knowledge that there's a family backing you up, and everything in your life you're supported by all these people. It's an interesting one because when I look at it, I kind of see the dark city more than this. And I think for me, the imagery of the Ten of Pentacles is a bit more overwhelming. I would say this is one in the middle. Should be probably more pronounced than the dark city, the street with no lights on and no people on. Page of Pentacles, the apprentice. The Knight of Pentacles, of course, is I would say like a grenadier, like a French grenadier. Yeah. And then you've got the Queen of Pentacles surrounded by gold. I guess it's someone successful, like a businesswoman or someone who made it, I assume, in terms of material possessions. And King of Pentacles, of course, this is like almost like Wolf of Wall Street, or maybe Golden Gecko character right here. So there you go. So now you have seen the deck, and let's do a quick read, and we'll see how this card deck performs in a reading, right? And we'll do intuitive reading and see if we can translate it to real life scenario, right? So maybe just do one card read. I'm just gonna pick one. I know I haven't shuffled the cards well, so it's gonna be anything. Justice. Okay, so when you look at this, I guess I see, imagery to me looks like a political unrest of some kind, or people protesting, perhaps. And what else am I seeing? Am I seeing someone who is sort of charging ahead, or maybe taking... yeah, to me it's a card of protesting against unfair, something unfair. That's how I see it. More than a justice, because I would expect to see like a scale or something in this, or maybe a court, where I don't see here. So to me, this is justice hasn't been done here. Perhaps it's people demanding justice. So let's have a look what it says, and see where it's gonna lead us. Here we go. In time of the days of dishonesty and chicanery, I hope I pronounced it correctly, it's not a word I see often, to come to an end. Corruption and plain old monkey business have gone on long enough, and now the objective truth must come home. There will be consequences, and the agents of malfeasance will be held accountable. Jesse does use a very nice and detailed language, I have to admit here. However, delivery of justice is a balancing act. There is a perfect conceptual justice for the cosmos, but here on Earth things can get muddy. And there are no hard and fast rules. There will be complications and exceptions. Be true to yourself, find stability, and consider the purity of the universe in the grid of everyday life. So this is my take on this, right? I think if you want to do intuitive reading, this is going to be interesting, because the meaning of a card you infer from the imagery may not be the actual meaning of a card, right? And that kind of brings me to who this deck is for. I think that I quite enjoy the deck, honestly. When I opened it, from beginning, from opening the box to going through the cards, I chuckled a few times. I was quite impressed with imagery, and I'm not a big comic book reader, but at the same time I appreciate good artwork, and I think this deck has it, right? So In terms of who this deck is for, I think it's a good modern reflection on traditional tarot. So I think it's a fun deck you can show to your friends if you do casual reading. The minor arcana, I think, is done. Jesse's done a great job with this, because minor arcana can be a little bit puzzling. I would not recommend this as a first deck for beginners, and the reason is that because imagery plays on traditional meaning. So I think you need to have an understanding of traditional meaning of the cards to see the correlation, and that's what makes it fun. The fact that you can look at something and say, oh, I recognize 3 of Pentacles here, or 4 of Pentacles. Like, that's such a modern take. You know, this is this giant Hulk-looking red monster. And then it makes sense. You're like, yeah, okay, I can get it now. You know, sitting that guy like a miser on countering coins and holding them with his feet and his hands. That makes perfect sense if you look at this here. Beginner will not have a clue what's going on here. That's my take. If you like exploring creative and fun takes on tarot, or if you like comic books, this is a deck for you, my friend. And also, it's relatively low price point. I can't remember how much it is. I think it's like 26 US. And quality, I know that people, someone complained about quality. I cannot fault it on quality. The book itself, yes, it's a small book, but they have a hardcover here, right? So which is cool. I think it'll last for a bit. The deck itself, look how sturdy the cardboard here is, right? The cards themselves, 350, I think it is, or around that milligram density deck. I think it's quite nice. So this is what I think who this would be for maybe more advanced tarot reader who will want to see the modern take on tarot, and maybe a nice gift for someone's birthday, or perhaps maybe gift on some other occasion. Now, to give you a bit of a sneak peek, in my next video I'll be reviewing the best decks of 2024, and there's been many. So I'm going to choose the ones that really stood out for me, and then I'll just talk about them a little bit, who they're for, and also link the reviews that I did, so you can go and have a look at the imagery and everything else. Thanks for tuning in again. Really appreciate your support and all the comments and all the love, and I will see you in the next one.